All right, everybody, welcome back to another week, another pregame show to get you in the know. I am Ethan Myers with the Know. Make sure you check us out everywhere at Be in the Know, and our website as well, www.theknow.com. Great podcast, great content all around. So make sure you're checking us out. Stay tuned. We'll be here every week throughout the season. Saints win out, Saints lose out, whatever it may be, we will be here. So hopping into this one, we have a Week 11 matchup against the Cleveland Browns. Former Saints quarterback Jameis Winston returns to town, comes to the Caesars Superdome, and faces off against his former team and former rival at one point, being a former Tampa Bay Buccaneer along with a former New Orleans Saint. He's back in familiar territory as an opponent and as a competitor in general. Like I said, he played here a couple of years and as well played against us here for quite a few years over there in Tampa Bay. So should be an interesting one all around. The Saints are 3-7 and the Cleveland Browns are 2-7. Cleveland Browns are coming off of their bye week. The Saints will be going into their bye week. So we have a bye week next week, week 12. Cleveland Browns just came off of their bye week in week 11. So I think the biggest thing that the Saints kind of have to taper, or whatever you want to call it, is Jameis Winston's return. He essentially wasn't selected to be the future here. Saints went another direction. He wound up in Cleveland, was supposed to back up Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson had surgery out for the rest of the season, and it sounds like the Browns are likely going to move on from Deshaun Watson either way. But nonetheless, Winston's returning. Like I said, he's played here as a competitor before. It's not like he's coming into unfamiliar territory on both sides of the ball as like a longtime Saints quarterback who left and came back. He's played here before, so I don't really expect much to kind of rattle him in the way of not being familiar with playing here against the Saints, because he definitely knows both sides of the ball against the Saints. So it should be interesting to see. But either way, it's going to be a fun one. I think both of these teams are probably hungrier than I think most folks would expect them to be. At 3-7 and 2-7, a lot of things would have to go right for the Saints to make the playoffs. And frankly, I'm not even sure a lot of folks want the Saints to make the playoffs, because even if we do get there, it's one of those things where, what do we look like and things like that, So it should be interesting to see, because like I said, both of these teams are a little bit hungrier than I think most folks would probably suspect them to be. So in Jameis's two starts over there in Cleveland, he's kind of put up Jameis Winston-esque stats. His first game out, almost 66% completion, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. But then the flip side, last week against the Chargers, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions, and 56% instead of 66, and 235 yards compared to 334. So love Winston. Love the leadership that he offers, but he is, at the end of the day, still Jameis Winston. So it should be interesting to see how the Saints play against him. Defense looked a little better last week for the Saints. Again, don't know if that has to do with anything about, the head coaching position, or just, primarily, maybe they just didn't like, how they felt. We got Char over on Instagram just saying, hi, what's up? How are you? But yeah, so, it should be interesting to see, because I don't know what to really expect from the Saints at this point. They don't really need to win any games. There is a small glimmer of hope for playoff hopes. But I don't know if you want it, and like I said previous weeks, I'll never root for the Saints to lose. If it's kind of a win-win at this point, right? Saints win, great. Saints lose, all right, let's keep figuring things out, right? So we're kind of in a unique position as fans to where, we can kind of go and cheer and have fun and not really care about the result. I don't think there's many times in Saints football that we've been able to do that. Obviously, we had the year that we went to the Super Bowl, which we were phenomenal. Oh, excuse me. In those last couple of weeks, just didn't really matter too much. We kind of knew our positioning and everything like that. So Should be an interesting next couple of weeks for the Saints fans, especially coming out of the bye. I think we'll kind of have a clearer direction of the NFC South picture and everything like that, because the Falcons, I believe, are also on a bye next week, or maybe they were just on a bye. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure they're on a bye next week with us. Falcons are facing off against the Denver Broncos this week. Denver is 5-5. Um, you know, I think Denver has a really solid chance of winning that game. Sean Payton probably still plays Atlanta with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. So that should be, interesting to see that game play out. It is an afternoon game, so 3:05 instead of noon. So if you're interested in watching both, you could definitely watch both. But that'll be one to keep our eye on, just to see if these small glimmer of hope stay alive for the Saints and their playoff chances, because they have a chance, and that's all we really need as fans, hope and things like that. Char over on Instagram says, trust they will make it. Yeah, definitely the Saints as far as favorite team goes. But yeah, so I think this matchup should be an interesting one. Like I said, they're both, teams that just need to stay hungry, remain hungry, and they definitely think they can win this game coming out of a bye week, just like the Saints think that they need to win this game, especially if they want to prove a point with Darren Rizzi being the guy now that Dennis Allen was fired. I think you come out swinging the rest of the season and play with a lot of intensity, no matter what happens. I think that's key number one. But I think the biggest thing is, the Saints defense, we'll kind of hop into keys to the game. The Saints defense has not done a phenomenal job at stopping the run lately. It always felt like a component of the Saints defense was about stopping the run, and we were good at it. But the Browns are coming in pretty poor in the the running back department, or run game department, considering they have Nick Chubb back there, and Jameis is a little bit mobile, but Chubb was out, and I know they have Deontay Foreman, I'm pretty sure, but either way, the Saints are in a position to stop the bleeding for the run defense, because they're giving up on average 120 plus yards. I can't remember the exact name, or exact number, but the Browns are not very good at running the ball. So fully expect the Saints, they're not going to really have to stuff the line too much, and I think that plays to our advantage, because like I said, Winston is coming off of that 3 interception game, and if you don't have to play the run too much, you could really just sit guys back there. And, Tyron, as we all know, is a ball hawk. And so I think that's a big key to the game for the Saints, is just make sure the run isn't anything it should be, right? They don't have Chubb. They're bad at running, and we've had a abysmal time stopping the run, giving up an astronomical amount of rushing yards compared to what our defense used to be. So stop the run, don't make it an issue, and you could make Jameis Winston play some pretty mediocre football and win the game. So other side of the ball for the offense, I know I normally start with offense, but I felt the need to bring up the run game there, because I just think it's important. So definitely on the offensive side of the ball, stick with play action, right? Alvin Kamara is a heck of a running back. Plays the game the right way, has immense balance. And I think even if you're not running the ball a lot, they're still going to have to respect the play action. And they also know that we do want to run the ball a lot. So either way you spin it, run the play action. It's useful. We saw what Valdez-Scantling can do with a little bit of room. And Derek Carr still has the arm to get it to wherever he needs to get it for these guys. So run the play action. And one thing I think specifically with the play action that I'd like to see is I'd like to see some play action with Taysom Hill, because 9 times out of 10, if we're in there with Taysom Hill, I think teams are expecting us to run the ball. And I'm not saying put Taysom at quarterback and run play action. I'm saying I'd like to see us put Taysom in the backfield as a running back and run play action with him some, because again, I think teams would expect, if Taysom's in the backfield, for us to run the ball, or at least get creative with it, maybe do some type of trick play, but I think the most important thing is just sticks to the play action. But also, like I said, I think it would be fun to see Tay Simon some play action and see what he can do there to kind of draw the defense up and allow that top of the defense to be exploited by Derek Carr and some speedsters that we may have, and guys that are still trying to make a name for themselves. So, yeah, those are the keys to the game: play action on offense and stop the run on defense. I think you utilize those two things, you're going to be doing fine. So, the other biggest thing again is, like I said, Jameis Winston. I think he's going to want to come in and play a really good game, and I hope he plays well. But I think he's probably the biggest factor for this game for both sides of the ball, because if Jameis Winston comes in like the Jameis Winston we know he can be, it's going to be a long game for the Saints. He's going to air us out for 300-400 yards, and I think we just have to you don't really have to commit to the run against the Browns is my biggest point earlier. And I think if you allow Winston to be the X factor against you, he's going to slice you up and he's going to win this game for Cleveland. And again, they're coming off of a bye week, so they're rested. They had more time to get Jameis Winston used to the starting role and everything like that. So it's going to be an interesting one. Again, Saints 3-7, Browns 2-7, essentially the same record. Just one team has had a bye and the other has not. So should be interesting to see how this plays out. But jumping into the NFC South a little bit, we have the Falcons, like I said, going against the Denver Broncos. Former head coach of the Saints, Sean Payton, over there in Denver, taking on a well-known rival of the Saints in the Atlanta Falcons. And you also have the Carolina Panthers and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They are both on a bye week this week, so nothing will change with them. So that's not a whole lot there going on in the NFC South today. We are still technically in the hunt for the playoffs, but, things every single week will change that. But ultimately, if the Saints want to win and want to go to the playoffs, they just have to control their own destiny and keep winning football games for themselves, for their pride, for Darren Rizzi, whatever it may be. But like I said, as a fan, I think we're in a unique position where we really don't have to worry too much about what's going on with the Saints and winning or losing, just because, winning 11 or whatever, how many games there are left, winning week 11 and forward is just not a whole lot of, there's not a whole lot of benefit because you need a lot of things to go right. But ultimately control your own destiny, go out there and play football and play it the right way. So matchups around the league to watch. I think, like I said, we have the Saints and the Browns at noon, so most folks are going to be watching that one. But definitely we'll be keeping an eye on the score of the Ravens and the Steelers game. Those two teams with similar records. You got Russell Wilson kind of reincarnated after struggling under Sean Payton. And you have former MVP Lamar Jackson on the other side. So a lot of fun there. And then, of course, those afternoon games, like I said, I'll be, keeping an eye on the Falcons and Broncos game. And then, of course, the Bills and the Chiefs. Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes have been, kind of not really silent, but a rivalry from the start. Chiefs are still undefeated at 9-0. Bills are 8-2. So that should be a fun game to watch. I'm sure it'll get chippy here and there. And then the Sunday night football game is the Bengals and the Chargers. Bengals struggling this season. Joe Burrow and crew not having a great year, and it kind of sucks to see because it feels like they have the talent and they're just not putting it together on the field. So, but that's, kind of been, I think, the story for the Bengals for the last year and a half anyway. And then Monday Night Football game, battle of the Texas teams, Houston Texans versus Dallas Cowboys. Texans are having a pretty good year at 6-4. Cowboys are not having a great time at 3-6. So, it should be interesting to see how this week plays out. Like I said, for the Saints to have any chance in the playoffs, they need a lot of things to go right. We won't even break those down until they just become more important, because we'd be here all day and probably past kickoff to cover all of those things. But make sure you hop in post game. We will be back with a little more breakdown of the game, immediate reaction, and things like that. And as usual, the final thing we will do is just check some anytime touchdown score bets to throw on this game. So hopping into FanDuel, it's the one I use. You don't have to use it. Use whichever one gives you the best odds if you're one of those people. If you're just a very casual bettor, then I don't know, find the one with the UI that looks the best for you. So Saints and the Browns game here. I think Alvin Kamara is probably a pretty safe bet, all things considered. But Nick Chubb, I don't know if he's returning, coming back. I thought he was out. Let's see. But But he's coming back, you know, and the Saints defense has kind of struggled, you know, through the year. So let's see here, Nick Chubb. Okay, yeah, so he was injured, but he's pretty much been back since Jameis Winston has been playing. So, but has not had too many great games. You know, looks like his average has been below, you know, around or below 3 yards. So, should be interesting to see how the Saints match up against him. But either way, you know, like I said, I like AK, and then I like David Njoku for a touchdown. So, those should be two interesting ones to watch. If you want to get a little crazy, you know, Marquez Valdez-Scantling as plus 390, that's pretty good odds. I don't hate it. I don't know if I'd bet it, but I don't hate it. And then let's see what else. Kadarius Toney's coming back today. He's plus 950. That could be interesting. You know, I'm not saying they're going to hit it, but Jameis Winston does like to air it out. And if there's one thing Kadarius is good at, it's running fast. So, but yeah, so no, I think, you know, for safe bets, AK and Njoku, and then if you want to get a little crazy, maybe MVS and Kadarius Toney there for you. So again, this has been the pregame show to get you in the know. Make sure you tune in. We will be back after the game to talk Saints, talk NFL, and everything else. We'll be here every week, win, lose, or draw, unless they cancel the game for whatever reason. Obviously, we won't be here. But check us out on socials everywhere at Be in the Know. Check out the website, www.theknow.com. Make sure you check out our Saints podcast, that Saints Pod. And again, we will be back after the game. Check us out and come chat with us. Thanks, and who dat?